So we're going live now. And what I'll do is, this one is called The War on Terror is a War on You. And anytime you're dealing with them, if a cop comes up and talks to you, he's the enemy. Okay? You are the enemy. You're at war, and you have to treat it that way. And you never, ever, you understand the law, what he's required to do and what he's not required to do, and you build a case against him. And when you do that, you can break it off in their ass. They never follow their own codes. They screen them for low intelligence. They want jarheads. They want order followers. And so you build a case against them and then break it off in their ass. And, that's the way you got to be. This is warfare. Okay, you never, ever tell the enemy what you're going to do. Never, ever tell the enemy what you're going to do.
So you're live now?
Yes, it is live, yeah. We're late, and so...
Glenn, something that's important, the enemy is the devil. He's the one that's stealing and killing and destroying, and he is the one that's the main culprit of who's doing what he's doing.
I agree.
We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. That's the problem. We put our energy on flesh and blood.
Well, but so the Vatican is Satan, okay? And so anybody that's got a military uniform, that is governed by the Concordat that was signed with Hitler, Article 10. And so it says that the wearing of a religious habit shall be treated as wearing a military uniform. Okay, so religious habit, these Vatican clothes are military uniforms, and you have to understand that. So then, if you want to carry that a little bit further, then you are anybody with a military uniform is an agent of the Roman cult. Okay, they're making war on you. All warfare comes from the Roman cult, from Satan. Satan is the father of lies. All warfare is about deception, about lies and deception, making you think something's going on when something else is actually happening. And so it's all about lies and deception. And so you have to, if you want to, you can't tell them what you're going to do. If you do, they're going to use it against you. So you never, ever tell the enemy what you're going to do. This is warfare, okay? You're basically going to have to go into Satan's venue and get it on with them. That's what you're going to have to do. And so, they're all agents of Lucifer, okay? These military uniforms, that's all martial law, that's warfare, that's Satan, okay? They are Satan. So, people seem to think that these people are your friends. They're not. Okay, these government officials. That's the reason that these people that are hired by George Soros, if they're going to honor their oath, that's one thing. That's all well and fine, and that's good, and I respect that. But the ones that aren't honoring their oath, then what happens? In ancient Israel, what happened when Christ? They took up stones and they were getting ready to stone somebody. There was no trial. They were getting ready to stone. We saw it all happen, and we have to kill them. And that's what it's going to come down to, I'm afraid. We're all going to have blood in our hands probably. And so you gotta get your head around that. Are you prepared to do it if the time comes? Are you prepared? You got to get your head around that. It's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be really, really ugly. And you have to understand that. And we, the people, need to step up. And we, the people, need to put our public servants in their place. And when they're in their place, what is it? Oh, that was what it was. I was looking for a quote I got interrupted when I was coming here to come here because it was all a big panic mode, and then there was no reason to come. But anyways, the when the government fears the people, there's peace, and when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. Okay, and so what was it, Jefferson that said that? Let's see if I can find that. Sorry?
Never mind. I'm thinking of a different quote. Resistance to tyranny is duty to God.
So we're late starting this thing, so there was probably people waiting for it, and they've all gone now because there we go. There we go.
Now, we're advocating for peace. That's what we want. We want peace.
Absolutely, but sometimes the peace comes after you take care of the enemy.
Right, peace first.
The Muslim definition of peace is when it fully dominates you.
Prepared, all the people would have been dead.
Well, I understand, but you seek peace first. You always want that first.
Yeah, so I'm having to there we go. Okay, well, I would have liked to have put that in a lot more places, but I guess I'm stuck with this. So, anyways, the war on terror is on you. You have to understand that. First of all, I'm not a liar. Well, I'm in a lawyer. No, I'm in a liar. You should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I provided references to aid you in your research, but I don't know everything, and I'm open to any ideas. There's 4 types of people you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? Do you really know for sure? Are you who you think you are? If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. If the people do not know their basic rights and freedoms, how can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? Never forget the men who started this country are marijuana growing, whiskey drinking, tax evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the cops. And that is so true. If you watch my videos on the militias, because everybody was required to be armed. And they understood what was going on, and they were going out and engaging the tyrants, right? They were going out and killing them. That's what they were doing. And they started the War of Independence. You think about it, it's exactly what happened. So, you know, more of us need to be after the tradition of our founding fathers. All tyranny needs to get a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. I don't trust the military industrial complex. I don't trust the mainstream media. I don't trust the bankster criminal cabal that owns the government, owns the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex, owns the military industrial complex, and owns the mainstream media. And if you call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't trust you. Those are conspiracy facts. Government's not reason, it's not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. When the governments fear the people, there is liberty. And when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. And so we're going to talk about current tyranny that's going on right now. The greatest danger to American freedom is a government that ignores the Constitution. And that's where we're at, folks. There's a war on terror, and it's a war on you. Government's descent to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper and securities is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. So, under the Commerce Clause, there's no sovereigns under the Commerce Clause. And you have to understand that, because that's where they get you. They put you under the Commerce Clause. And, but there's ways of dealing with that, okay? Because they're violating Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Okay, the Commerce Clause, well, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that later here. Individual means a natural person. This is found at Title 31 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Minor means an individual under the age of 18. The term minor is also used to refer to an individual who has attained the age of 18 years, but has not yet taken control of the securities contained in his or her minor account. Did you know that you have a Treasury Direct account? Okay, well, it's actually under the Code of Federal Regulations, so all regulations fall under Article 4 that says Congress shall have power to make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property of the United States. Regulations are for government property. So that's why I call that's a fraud. Okay, but what happened is some criminals, okay, when you were born, criminals, because they engaged in fraud when they did it, criminals created some securities when you were born and turned them over to the Treasury. And those securities have been collecting interest, since you were born. And that's what this is talking about. There's an account with the Treasury with your name in all block capital letters. It's a minor estate. Court means a court of law with jurisdiction over the parties and the subject matter, okay? Subject matter jurisdiction is always the argument, okay? They always deny due process. So if you're, if you guys want to talk, you can go outside and talk, okay? Anyways, they always deny due process. If they deny due process, there's lots of court cases to talk about it. When they deny due process, they lose subject matter jurisdiction, okay? And there's court cases to talk about it, how you can challenge subject matter jurisdiction even on appeal at any time. And so that's the answer, okay? Is the denials of due process and challenge subject matter jurisdiction, okay? And so they have a duty to provide everybody with due process of law, okay? Things like trial by jury. Remember we were talking about it earlier? Trial by jury is where the jury conducts the trial. There's the jury calls the witnesses, the jury questions the witnesses, the jury determines the law and facts of the matter, and the jury even pronounces the sentence. And so if you're denied trial by jury, that's a denial of due process. Okay, and there's cases. There's a guy that passed away, Charlie Nelson. I know recently he passed away, but he used to demand a trial by jury, and if you do it right and you stand your ground and do that right, the case disappears. And I was with Darren actually, and we didn't recognize it when it was presented to us because we demanded trial by jury. I was with Darren helping him, and the judge said, all I can give you is a jury trial. The codes only allow us. We should have grabbed on that and said, well, your oath of office is to the supreme law of the land. If we would have done that, they would have dropped it. I can guarantee you. The jury was sitting outside the room, ready to go. Okay, they were sitting out there. We were in chambers in a little office next to the courtroom, and we could have it would have got dropped right there. What he did instead was sign a plea bargain without prejudice, which means there's no contract, and I've done that too before, and it works pretty good because it means there's no contract. And so that's fatal to him. And Darren's case eventually went away. But he still had some issues he had to deal with. Eventually the thing went away. Anyways, so the point is, trial by jury, what they'll do is when you hold their feet to the fire, they'll say, well, all we can do is give you a jury trial. Now, and that's when you remind them of their oath of office. Federal judges are a little bit more difficult because their oath of office is, if you read a federal judge's, it's actually not a constitutional oath of office, because all it says is that they will do justice agreeably to the Constitution. So they're all foreign agents of the Roman cult is what they are. Actually, all judges are foreign agents of the Roman cult. In the state, they have an oath to support and defend the Constitution, but not the federal judges. So again, that's where you attack, okay? The best defense is a good offense. When they're attacking you, now it's open warfare. Now you can go after them. And that's what I do too, is I build a case against them and start filing criminal complaints and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, the important thing here is the subject matter, okay? An entity means any owner of a Treasury Direct account that's not an individual. An entity is a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, limited liability company, or professional limited liability company, trust, the estate of a deceased or the estate of a living person, such as an incompetent or a minor. Okay? So, again, what they're doing is they're putting you under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, the Commerce Clause. Okay? That's what they're doing right here. And so, if they assault you with their Commerce Clause, that's exactly what they're doing. And again, they're bringing the District of Columbia outside of 10 Mile Square. This is where this all came from in the U.S. codes. This is the code of law for the District of Columbia in 1901. The legal estate to be the cestque use. And a use is short for usufruct, which is Roman law. It's a type of a trust. The Republic is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. The Republic is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. Open or secret war. And Franklin said, a republic if you can keep it. Boy, was that ever prophetic. But the republic is still here. It's dormant because we have a bunch of pirates, thieves and pirates that have set up their fake corporation, okay? And that's what they're doing. But again, they still have to follow the Constitution. That Constitution, that's why they want to have a war, and they want to get rid of that pesky little Constitution. And that's a major problem for them. And so you always have that Constitution. So they get you under the Commerce Clause, and most of these brain-dead idiots have no idea they're under the Commerce Clause. And so they sit there and argue, oh, you don't have jurisdiction over me, or some stupid-ass thing. Or they try and capture that minor estate, or some stupid-ass thing. And all of that's immaterial. My contact information is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group called Sovereignty International is being deleted. Quite frankly, I haven't been to Facebook in months. I'm not interested in providing them with any information about me because all it is a CIA tracking facility. So I don't want to delete my profile off of there because then they can go ahead and use my group and profit from it. What I have to do is go on there and delete, bam, all those people off of that group. So then I can delete the group, but I don't want to go on there. So, it's kind of a catch-22 situation. Anyways, my freelist.org private group is Administering Your Public Servants. My Google private group is called Administering Your Public Servants. Follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. HowTube, I have the subscription videos on HowTube. I've also got a Rumble profile, but I haven't uploaded much there because their website is not very user-friendly and they don't have any support. I got a True Social profile, Engineer Win, and I have an X profile. It used to be Twitter, called Engineer Win too. And Twitter isn't as big on free speech as they say they are. So yet still, it was found difficulty to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. See, this minor estate, this minor estate comes from the Roman cult. Okay, this is the Roman cult. These are Satanists. They're liars. They're thieves. They're murderers. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. For when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance by which lands were granted not to themselves directly, but the nominal fiefs to the use of the religious houses. Use meaning usufruct, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits while the season of the land remained in the nominal fief, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. Isn't that convenient, eh? All these courts are Roman cult courts, okay? That's the military uniform. Remember, I told you, anybody with a military uniform is an agent of the Roman cult. That all comes from the Concord Act with Hitler in 1933. So, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, to be bound in conscience to account for his sesticate use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. That's taxes, folks. They lay awake at night dreaming this stuff up. I mean, they're Satanists, okay? They're diabolically evil, okay? And that's why I say, if it was up to me, I'd like to turn the Vatican into a smoking hole. One good nuke over there, just turn it into a smoking hole.
Can we vote on it?
Sorry?
Can we vote on it?
There you go. Right? But anyway, and it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mortmain. Main. That's one of the 160 law dictionaries that I have available too, by the way, that I made searchable. I got them and they weren't searchable, and I had PDF Pro, so I made them all searchable. And so I was searching through there, just curious about some of the stuff in there by keywords. And this is one of the things that I came across. And this just nails it. Anyways, it all goes back to the Sesticate v. Act of 1666, and that is what precipitated the War of Independence. Okay? That is exactly what precipitated the War of Independence. So a minor means an individual under the age of 18 years old. The term also used to refer to an individual who's attained the age of 18 years but has not yet taken control of the securities contained in his or her minor account. So that tells us some things here. First of all, it tells us that there's a minor estate. It says that the minor estate was created at birth by fraud. It says that there's a Treasury Direct account associated with the minor estate, and there are securities in it. If you think about it, Federal Reserve notes are securities. And so there's securities in it. And it's all a fraud, and it's slavery, because it's converting you into a fictitious entity, which is property under the Commerce Clause. That's slavery. So that's one of the things I do, is I file involuntary servitude, felony criminal complaints against them. And I had actually Montague County sue me over property taxes, and I filed 76 criminal complaints into the case. And one of them, it was a bunch of them actually, because it was it was about maybe 10 people or 15 people that the criminal complaints were against. And so so there's probably about 15 of them for involuntary servitude against different people. Anyways, so what that means is that what happened okay, in Montague County is they didn't issue a warrant under the Texas code. They don't follow their own codes, okay? They never do. They didn't issue warrants. They're required to issue warrants under the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. And when they failed to issue warrants, I went and did a motion to disqualify the judge. And the next thing you know, the judge is gone, and they got a new judge there. So, and we just did that in Ken's case, and I'll bet you that judge will be gone too. We'll see. And so then the next judge, what I did was I filed a challenge to jurisdiction and some other stuff, and then what happened is they went and actually what they did is the court hired an attorney. They sued me and a trust that I manage, Texas American Holdings. Okay, they sued me and the trust, and I don't care. Go ahead and sue the trust. I didn't even answer for the trust. And so what happened is I get this letter in the mail from this attorney, and it said in there that he had been hired to represent the trust, but it specifically said, "But I'm not representing you." So, anyways, so what happened then is he filed a response into the case for the trust. He basically denied everything. And then what happened is they said they were going to have a trial in December. And so on December 15th, this is the last December, they had a trial. I didn't show up because, you know, it's all a fraud. I'm not going to play their game. And then in January, I got a letter from the clerk, and it said that there had been a ruling in that trial, and that if I wanted a copy of it, that I had to send them $5. And I figured, perfect, that's perfect, because if the ruling had anything to do with me, they send me a copy. So I just ignored it. And so now I just sent them yesterday a demand for costs. And I want 2 monster boxes of silver for costs, or $40,000. And for my costs in defending myself against their frivolous, baseless action. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, so it's all slavery. You got to understand, it's slavery. They're forcing you to work for them for nothing. Anytime they want you to pay anything, it's slavery. Where's the contract? And that was one of the things, like with these taxing people, I sent them, I'm proactive. I sent them stuff before they sent anything to me. And I sent them stuff like it was like a 21-page document, and it said, produce a bona fide contract that I've agreed to this. Either that or you're going to be guilty of all these felonies. And so they didn't produce a contract, and so that's when I started filing the felony criminal complaints into the case. And so now I'm going to go for costs, and then what I'll probably do is I'll go after the FBI for failing to prosecute these felonies that they're involved in. Of course, if they drop me off the case, well, then I can't accuse them of involuntary servitude. Actually, I can't accuse them of anything because they if they drop me off the case, then they didn't violate my rights under the color of law. They didn't do anything that I'm accusing them of, right? So that lets them off the hook. I accuse them of unlawful appropriations. I mean, there's multiple felonies, false and fictitious records, all sorts of stuff. And a lot of them, like some of these felonies are like, 30 years in jail. Subjecting me to their satanic religious ceremony with their fraud and deception. Anyways, so maybe that's why they dropped it, because then it lets them off the hook for all the felonies. But I want costs. And I already told them I want $40,000 in costs, or actually I want 2 monster boxes. But I said that if you can only discharge this debt, then I'll accept as an extremely less desirable alternative fake money, reserve notes, forced loans, IOUs. But if you're going to send me that, I want $40,000 in fake money. And so, and actually, let's let them off the hook, because if you look at the Silver Eagles and what they're worth nowadays, they're worth about $32 or $31 or whatever the current exchange. Plus, there's at least $10 premium on those things. And so actually I should probably have asked for more. So I guess we'll see. We'll see. I should have, in hindsight, probably told him I want more. But anyways, it's fake money. If I'm gonna send me fake money.
Hey Glenn, the reason why you're doing so well is that you're proactive. You beat them to the punch.
Yeah,
You already let them know who you are in advance.
absolutely. That's exactly what you have to do. Yes, Brad.
Roll back to when they offered you a copy of the case or whatever you mentioned a few minutes ago. I think you were correct in not going and getting it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
just want to mention that because
right.
by going and getting it, now
Yep.
you've opened up a new
Yeah,
realm
yeah.
for them to enter into.
Yeah, I don't care what it
You
says.
have to understand that.
I don't care what it says.
Yep.
It just doesn't have anything to do with me. That's all I need to know.
If you don't get anything in the mail, then you're okay.
Yeah. So anyways, well, they gotta send me some fake money now or a shipment of silver, one of the two. And so we'll see what happens. I've already prepared a judicial complaint against the judge for, the first judge for hindering prosecution. And because he was supposed to issue warrants and he failed to do it. And, and then, for, his fake court, don't get me going. Anyways, so we'll see what happens. If they send me, and bar grievances, always bar grieve the attorney, okay? You always go after the lawyer scum and bar grieve their ass. They hate it when you bar grieve because the bar has total control over them. And actually, I think I could get these lawyers removed because I sent them that notice of demand and I said, produce a bona fide contract or I'm gonna, or you're gonna be guilty of these felonies. And they didn't produce any contract and they went ahead with it anyway. So they're abusing the system is what it is. That's called barratry. And I'm gonna accuse them of barratry when I file the criminal complaints. Yes.
I wanted to share one more thing. This came from an attorney that got out of being an attorney. He said that whenever they have cases like yours or anyone that's doing common law, out of the realm of their usual stuff, okay, with an attorney and all, they have to report your stuff back to the bar. So, and what they're trying to do, it's like a chess game. They're trying to figure out how to get around your stuff.
Right.
I
Well,
don't know if anybody knows that or not, but
they do.
It's a chess
They
game.
do. Matter of fact, they always get a special attorney for pro se, and I'm considered pro se, but they always get this. There's attorneys that specialize in dealing with people like us, and so that's why again I just bar grieve the ass. And if I have, that's a bar grievance issue. Okay, if I send them that notice of demand, and that I got from that lawyer. Okay, the lawyer said I'm going to recommend suing you, and so I got it in writing. They sent it to me in writing. Great, that's great evidence because after I sent them that letter saying produce a bona fide contract, and they failed to do it, that lawyer's got a problem. I'll bet you I get them disbarred, or I'll get them slapped at a minimum, and they're going to think twice about going after somebody like me next time. You see what I'm saying? And that's what you got to do. And I want my $40,000. And so we'll see what happens, right? If they send me the $40,000, then I might just let it kind of go. You see what I'm saying? But if they don't send me that $40,000, then I'm going to start. That's the stuff I'm planning on doing.
You
Okay.
send them a reminder every now and then. You haven't paid. I haven't received your.
Well,
payment yet.
actually, what I'll do is I'm debating about what to do. You can't really tell them that you're filing. You can't, like, if you file a criminal complaint against them, you can't send them a copy, okay? Because that could be considered harassment and all sorts of shit. And so I never sent them a copy. I'm not sure, but I think what I'll do is I'll definitely, I might send a letter saying I haven't received it at the same time that I send in the bar grievance. But I won't tell them that I'm sending the bar grievance. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't do that. That's considered harassment, and you can get in trouble over that stuff. But so you have to be careful. Were you going to say something, Jason?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was wondering if this is like in the public or the private. You just keep it in the private?
Well, I haven't sued them yet. I mean, that's always an alternative. You know, what I could do is bring an action in the common law court, but we got to have a common law court that I can bring it in. And again, it's still a civil matter. One thing that Nelson asked for a recent case, and Darren asked for a recent case from Kevin. There's actually a recent case in Dallas where it was WFAA TV, and there was a Johnny Johnson went and sued WFAA TV and got a judgment against them, and it was brought into the 95th District Court, and the District Court dismissed it because it was res judicata. They couldn't override a common law court, and so I mean that's in 1996. You know, I sent you a copy of that case. So I don't understand why you're wondering about recent cases, although that one that Kevin talked about, that one was new to me. I'm glad to hear about that. I want to copy that one just because it's good information to see how different people are doing it in different places, you know, because there's a lot of ways to skin a goose, you know, and so, you know, we can learn from all of it. Anyways, let's see. So we know that's a fraud, and it's a commerce clause. So this is Declaration of Independence. This is the same stuff. This is, you know, if you think about it, the Declaration of Independence is a list of grievances. And if you read that Declaration of Independence and you compare it to what's going on today, the same things are going on today. The exact same things. You know, they say the more history changes, the more it stays the same. And it's the same stuff that's going on today. So we're going to go through a little bit of this. It says he's endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither. Gee, that sounds like open borders and election interference. You see what I'm saying? He's obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. Gee, that sounds like kangaroo courts. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance. Gee, that sounds like military police everywhere. I mean, there's code enforcers or family court or somebody. You're always getting assaulted by somebody, and it's like they come out of the woodwork. He's affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. That sounds like martial law, and we got military police everywhere. That's why I always call them military police. They hate it, okay? But that's exactly what they are. They're military police. And I always call them that. I call it in their court, your military police did this, your military police did that. They're military police, okay? They have military rank structures. They have military uniforms. They're military police. You got to understand that. And they do not want you understanding that you're under martial law, because that's what caused the War of Independence. And there's court cases that talk about it. He's combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. Well, that's color of law. Okay, that Title 31 of the Code of Federal Regulations is, by definition, color of law. Anything that's a regulation is color of law. It's not law. That's not passed by Congress. It's not law. And so it's color of law by definition. For protecting him by a mock trial, kangaroo courts, show trials, denials of due process. I mean, all of these so-called courts hold mock trials. In this case, from the punishment of murders they should commit on the inhabitants. So they let their murderers get away easy or free, and the people that do nothing, you know, speeding, they throw them in jail for the rest of their life. You know, I mean, it's exactly what's going on. You see it every day. For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Gee, that sounds like bringing the District of Columbia outside 10 miles square, right? They're using that minor estate again. For abolishing a free system of English laws in a neighboring province, therein establishing an arbitrary government, enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. That's bringing the District of Columbia dictatorship outside, not exceeding 10 miles square, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Where's the contract? And so it's martial law. That's what martial law is all about. For taking away our charges, abolishing our most valuable laws, altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, that's military dictatorship, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases. Well, that's a military dictatorship. He's abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. That sounds like the Trading with the Enemy Act. Okay, they're making war on you, and the sooner you figure that out, the better. He's destroyed the lives of our people. Gee, that sounds like populating the jails with these commercial transactions, right? Selling people into slavery. I mean, that destroys their life. And they do it. Texas has a bigger percentage of people in jail than the worst communist dictatorships, more than China, more than the Soviet Union as a percentage. So war is a police state. It's a military dictatorship. The war on drugs in the 70s to now, the war on crime in the 80s to now, the war on terror in the 90s till now. When did these guys become these guys? Again, it's martial law. You have to treat it that way. It's a military dictatorship. And the sooner you figure that out, the better. The republic is the only form of government which is not secretly, eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. The republic is the only form of government which is not eternally, forever, at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. What?
Could I mention that says Republican, which is me? That I think he's referring to the man, the common law man, not the republic there. Just from my perspective.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
And that's the point of what in my view, the founding fathers understood every man is his own government, and that's the common law Republican. So when the DC comes at us, which is what they knew would happen someday when we lost our way, that's why they wrote in there what we can do to rebuff them.
Actually, it's a Republican form of government, and so and at that time the Republican Party didn't exist either. It's a Republican form of government, which is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
And we're also guaranteed a Republican form of government too.
We are under the Constitution, exactly. So while I agree with Nelson, we all have to be our own government. We self-govern. He's 100% right. But it's also the form of government where what we have, a republic, if you can keep it. If you can keep it. Do you know who you are? When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. And when the government fears the people, there's liberty. We got to make it so they are scared shitless of us.
Yes.
Not calling us names like sovereign citizen and shit like that. We got to make it so they're scared shitless.
I think that quote for Thomas Jefferson was, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty.
That's one of his quotes, but no, I showed that quote at the very beginning. When there's liberty, when the people fear the government, there's liberty, and when the government fears the people, there's tyranny. Or no, the other way around. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny, and when the government fears the people, there's liberty. I have exclusive content available on HowTube. It's $9.99 a month plus for the videos, plus unlimited email consultations. But I'm not a liar. Well, I meant an attorney. No, I meant a liar. But I can tell you what I would do under certain circumstances and where to find the forms. The only power that these New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit. But I cannot fight all the battles. I need other people doing the same thing and being on point. So some of my exclusive content is there's an Arlington private information share. There's 7 videos there by itself. Land deed trading, I got 3 videos on that. Estoppel certificates training, foreclosure estoppel certificates training, corporate denial training, toll roads notice and demand training, invoice training, notice of void judgment training, revocation of signature training, third-party witness training, federal habeas corpus training, revocation of voter registration training, criminal complaint training. I've got like about 3 videos on that, and I need to put more up there. Lawsuit training, actually I've got more than that. I put one up recently, but I'm going to do one on, I did one on Janet Yellen. Lawsuit training, I got 1 video on that. I need to put more. Other training requests, I'm open to any requests, but it's got to be something I haven't done already, and it's got to be something that's within the scope of what I'm trying to do on my channel. In other words, I'm not going to tell you how to go and capture that minor estate, because I think that's a fraud, and it's satanic, and you're getting in a contract with the devil, and I wouldn't. I don't know how to do it, quite frankly, but if I did know, I wouldn't tell you, and I don't do that. I'm not interested in that. That's not what I'm interested in doing. It's a fraud and a nullity. Northeast private information share videos. I got a petition for writ of mandamus. I need to do that one. And the videos taken down by YouTube are all up there. First views of all new uploads, all forms, files, and other instructions are available for free, linked on my videos and on my website. All exclusive content will be available on howtube.com, and you can buy a subscription there. And HowTube is Sovereignty International. When did this become this? That's when they were friends, and that's when they were enemies. If you think this is for your protection, you clearly have no idea what's going on. Pull over. Your tail light's out. It started under Nixon, under the guise of muzzling Nixon's political opponents, who were blacks and hippies. Probably started when they murdered Kennedy. Johnson muzzled the Christian ministers with the Johnson Amendment involving 501c3 tax-exempt organizations. Trump actually passed an executive order to allow churches to have free speech. I don't know if that's still in place. See my churchianity videos. It's becoming increasingly severe. It will continue to increase until we're all slaves, or we have put a stop to it. It's got to come from we, the people. Who do you think, and that's Biden's, who do you think Biden's political opponents are? Christians, conservatives, libertarians, gun owners, survivalists, preppers, opponents of the New World Order, opponents of big government. Those are all definitely Biden's political opponents, along with Trump. And you see what he's doing with Trump. And Trump has billions of dollars to protect himself. What do you think is going to happen with somebody like you or me? According to the FBI, domestic terrorist is anybody who's a Christian or anti-government, or expresses libertarian philosophy statements or bumper stickers, or exhibits Second Amendment-oriented views like the NRA, or gun club membership, or reads survivalist literature, or shows signs of self-sufficiency by stockpiling food, ammo, hand tools, medical supplies, or fears an economic collapse, or buys gold or barter items. Gee, that sounds like just about everybody. Subscribes to religious views concerning the book of Revelations, or voices fears about big government, big brother, or big government, or expounds about constitutional rights or civil liberties, believes in the New World Order conspiracy. Don't forget, Obama said he can murder any terrorist without due process of law. Remember that? Are you a domestic terrorist? According to the federal government, speaking out against government policies, protesting anything such as participating in the Occupy movement, questioning war, even though war reduces our national sovereignty, having bumper stickers saying, like, know your rights or lose them, taking pictures of videos, talking to police officers, writing on a piece of paper, being frustrated with mainstream ideologies, valuing online privacy, being anti-tax, anti-regulation, or for the gold standard, being reverent of individual liberty, believing in conspiracy theories, a belief that one's personal and or national way of life is under attack, supported political movements for autonomy, suspicious of centralized federal authority, fiercely nationalistic as opposed to universal and international in orientation, opposing surveillance. And this is taken from, there's Infowars.com, Counterpunch.org, WashingtonBlog.com, Wired.com, PublicIntelligence.net, ActivistBlog.com, Reuters.com. The Republican is the only form of government, the only Republican form of government, yes.
Oh, isn't using their money also make you a terrorist? Isn't that with trading with the Enemy Act?
That's probably true. Anyways, the Republican is the only form of government that's not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. They're making war on you. It's about time you woke up and figured it out. A republic, if you can keep it. Just in, a private communication from a CIA source stated clearly that Brussels, even and ISIS, this is an older one obviously, in general, is funded and trained by U.S. operatives to further the formation of world government with no local nation states jurisdiction globally. So think about it. Who's funding that? The UN. That's exactly where it's coming from. Gee, that sounds like the World Health Organization wanting to have a World Health Treaty. Biden's political enemies are traditional Americans, anyone opposed to the New World Order and the Constitution. So LEOs are law enforcement officers. LEOs are not peace officers. It means they intend to shove their fictitious color of law statutes down your throat. LEOs are working in their private capacity as revenue officers under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. LEOs are order followers, they're Satanists, and they're enforcing the police state. There's a guy by the name of Mark Passio, talks about Satanists in America. He's a former Satanist priest, so who would know better than Mark Passio? He's got some videos on natural law. He talks about the pillars of Satanism that are forms of mind control, talks about order followers that are responsible for all the atrocities in history. You think about it, that's exactly, order followers are responsible for all of the atrocities in history. They just follow orders without thinking about whether it's a lawful order or not. They're willing slaves. And this is Mark Passio's YouTube channel, What on Earth? So order followers, the World War II war crimes tribunals, all of the Nazis claimed they were just following orders. That means they were Satanists. They either suffered death by hanging or spent the rest of their life in jail. Some of them are still hunted to this day. Vietnam War, there's a My Lai massacre, and they convicted them of murder. And today, order followers are everywhere. And a Leo is a pig. And a pig is an acronym. Persons in government who intend to perjure their oath. It could also be called a wordism, since it's also used as a word. Federal state statutes are actually federal statutes. They talk about persons, which is U.S. citizens. All government employees are U.S. citizens. They deal strictly with Federal Reserve notes, which are meant for internal use of the government only. The Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. A republic, if you can keep it. My new book is available, Trump, a True American Patriot or Not. Mike Blackwell asked me to write the book, and it took me about 6 weeks to write the book because I just took a lawsuit and manipulated it and turned it into the book. But then he had to babysit me for 6 months and get it ready to publish, and so that's why I put him on the book. But I wrote the book, and he hired a company to publish it for us or help us publish it, and they did the back here, and I think they nailed it when they did this. It says, "In Trump, a true American patriot or not, Glenn Fern and Mike Blackwell reveal the depths of corruption, deceit, and manipulation infesting our political system for hundreds of years, regardless of political affiliation. Read the hard evidence that exposes how our elected officials sold Americans into slavery. Understand the Founding Fathers' true intent when they framed our Republican form of government. Discover the influence of the satanic Roman cult on our politicians and political system. Does Donald Trump want to transfer power back to we the people? In Trump, you will see the great battle that is upon us." And I think they nailed it there, that's for sure. You can order the book from Amazon.com or my website. It's $45 plus shipping. I prefer you order the book from my website. If you order my website, you'll get it autographed. Amazon does not provide autographed books. You want to know the origins of the deep state, who's behind it? You want to know why it's called the Trump administration or the Biden administration? Do you want to know what an administration is? Do you want to know how Trump came to be president? Does everybody here know that Trump was invited by the military to run? I think that's getting to be common knowledge. You want to know who owns Congress? You know, why do you think Pelosi would get up there and say, we can't read this bill until after we pass it? Think about it. She's taking orders from the owners. You know why they're called law enforcement officers? We talked about that a little bit already. Do you want to know how you have become a slave? We talked about that too. If you're forced to pay them anything, you're being forced to work for the government for nothing. That's slavery. Corporations, they're using the Commerce Clause because the Commerce Clause is corporations are a special privilege, and corporations, you can't enslave a corporation. That's why it's so good to accuse them of slavery. You want to know what the root cause of the War of Independence was? It's in the book. We kind of talked a little bit about that already. You want to know why every president goes to the Pope, to visit the Pope on their first international trip? Have you noticed that? How many people have noticed that here? Some people have. It's in the book. Has to do with why the Trump, it's called an administration. It's an ecclesiastical office. An administrator is an ecclesiastical office. Has to be appointed by the Pope. So Mike Blackwell asked me to write the book. Jerome Corsi is a guy that lives up in the Northeast, and I usually talk about him, but I didn't. He's got a PhD in political science from Harvard. He's written a bunch of books, got a YouTube channel, website. Anyways, there's a YouTube video where he says that in 2015, 5 generals came to see him, and they said they were going to overthrow Obama. And he said, well, you can do that if you want, but you might want to go talk to Donald Trump first. 3 months later, he gets a phone call. They decided not to overthrow Obama because Donald Trump would agree for him for president. So my opinion, okay, so this book is full of 99% provable facts because I use law dictionary definitions, international treaties, court cases, all sorts of stuff like that to prove everything I say. But there is a little bit of opinion. And my opinion is that the entire Trump administration was a giant military psyop, and I think it continues to this day.
So you think that these trials he's going through right now where he gets convicted is going to be used later on whenever he becomes president, he'll get the ex-presidents taken care of?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think there's already attorneys who are not on George Soros's payroll, district attorneys and those kinds of people, they're already working on it. I think that that's already started, and I think the military's starting on it already. I think it's already started. I've heard rumors of it already started.
Do you see military tribunals for Fauci?
Absolutely. I want to see him get his neck stretched. And we're gonna, Trump, you know what happened? I don't know if you noticed this. Well, first of all, let me show you this. Let's finish what this is, and at the end, or not the end, but at the end of this part about my book, I'll talk about some things that I've heard about, okay? It's all hearsay, so you don't know. But anyways, Howard Hughes. And anybody remember Howard Hughes? Howard Hughes was a billionaire after World War II. He got blackballed. And so he got some young ladies to go and sleep with the military-industrial complex types to find out why he couldn't get any defense contracts. And that's when he found out they were planning on doing what they're doing now. They want to have pandemics and wars and kill off 90% of us. And so he had some books published and procedure manuals and things like that on how to defeat the whole thing. And Kennedy was implementing it. Remember, 7 days before they killed Kennedy, he said that he was going to come out and expose this secret combination. Remember that speech that he made, the secret societies. Anyways, so then what happened is they killed Kennedy, they killed his brother, they killed a bunch of people, and what happened, and I think that was actually, there's good reason to think that might have been a psyop too, because anyways, we'll talk about that more later, I guess. So what happened? See, there's David Wilcock talks about that. Okay, there's a David Wilcock video that talks about Howard Hughes and that he had published these books and stuff like that. Anyways, and then Trump, my opinion, another one of my opinions is that all these billionaires get approached by the New World Order crowd and they get told you're going to go along with our program or you're going to turn out dead. I don't know if you remember Warren Buffett. Bill Gates went to visit Warren Buffett one day, and after Bill Gates went to visit Warren Buffett went and donated like $5 billion to the Gates Foundation. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But they have since had a falling out. And so Warren Buffett is basically, I don't know, there's been a falling out of some sort. I don't know what the particulars are. But so the point is that I think that all of this happens. I think Trump was approached, and I think that Trump thumbed his nose at him, and I think they tried to kill him. And because there was a helicopter crash in 1984. And what happened is that helicopter, 3 of his executives got killed. Trump was supposed to have been on the flight, and he canceled out at the last minute. And I started out in 1976 working on helicopters as a mechanic. So I know a few things about helicopters. And I can tell you that helicopters don't crash for the reasons that one crashed. I've seen helicopter crashes. I've seen them right up front, right close. And so I've seen the results. I saw a helicopter when we think that the pilot just kind of nodded off, and when he had it running, he was sitting there idling, the blades were going, and he was sitting there and he nodded off because it just rolled over and laid on its side. It was amazing the damage that caused. It rolled the helicopter off. But
Trump's been very fortunate. There's been several attempts for his life.
There's been a bunch, I think.
There was one recently at a Trump rally in New Jersey.
Really?
And they spotted the drone. Somebody made it kind of strange, and they spotted him out of the crowd and got him before he did. So he's been very fortunate. I think he's got guardian angels.
I think he does. I believe he does.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, so I think they tried to kill Trump. That helicopter crashed because the blades came off. I've never heard of blades coming off a helicopter. Now, helicopters do crash. One of the big reasons that they crash is tail rotor dry shaft bearings freeze up, and then the tail rotor quits working. And then the helicopter, because the tail rotor counteracts torque, so the helicopter starts spinning and augers in. And so the pilots are taught how to deal with that. And the pilots, and as a mechanic, they had temperature sensitive paint on those tail rotor dry shaft bearings And that was our job to check that paint. Anytime we did a daily inspection or a routine inspection, any kind of inspection we did, we had to check that paint and make sure that it wasn't discolored, okay? Because if it discolors, then it's getting too hot and that bearing needs to be replaced. And so, so that was our job as mechanics to check that stuff. So anyways, so let's keep moving. In reality, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. And you know what happened, what I'm hearing is that, I don't know how many of you remember when the election, when Trump lost the election, there was questions about Insurrection Act signing and all this stuff, and Sidney Powell went home at night expecting to come back the next morning and sign and prepare paperwork for Trump to sign for the Insurrection Act. I don't know how many of you remember that. I remember that. Anyways, so what happened is the next morning when Sidney Powell came back, Mark Meadows had revoked her White House pass. And so everybody was calling Mark Meadows a traitor, all this stuff, right? But in one of 107's videos, he talks about it. He says that Trump used to meet with generals in the middle of the night all the time. And he said that there was some generals that came to see him in the middle of the night, and they told him that he could sign the Insurrection Act. That certainly was within his power. But they said that if he did, that they would, just like when Lincoln signed the Insurrection Act, that we would be in a civil war within 6 months. And they had gamed out every scenario that they could for Civil War scenarios, and that the Republic would not survive. So Trump decided not to sign the Insurrection Act to try and wake people up. And he's been doing that, if you think about it. So what happened is, about 18 months before his first indictment, I got an email, and it said, Trump's gonna get indicted, but don't worry, it's all part of the show. And so then Trump, before his first indictment, he came out and said, I am your retribution. If you've been wronged by the deep state, then I'm gonna go after him when I get back in office. See, he's jerking their chain, okay? He wants them to do indict him, okay? He's jerking their chain. And so then they come out with the indictments, and how many indictments? It's been like, I mean, a bunch of them. I mean, this last indictment was like 38 felonies or 34 felonies or something like that.
34
Yeah. So anyways, and that's only the latest one. Just before the latest indictment, he came out and started talking about public hangings. He did. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I remember that. And so he's jerking their chain. He's telling them, this is what's going to happen if you don't do something. We're going to stretch your neck. And so they came out with this indictment, this show trial, and this kangaroo court. So I think it's all part of the show. Matter of fact, what has also come out, first of all, there's been a bunch of trials over since 2020. So it's now 4 years or close to it. There's a bunch of people that got convicted for fake ballots, okay? Election manipulation. There's a bunch of people in Wisconsin, in Georgia, in these states, right, that are pivotal states for this election, Pennsylvania, that have been put on trial and convicted for making fake ballots and election manipulation. And number one. Number two, it's actually come out. There was a case that went to the Supreme Court. It was, what's her name? In Arizona, that was going for the Arizona governor. What's her name?
Carrie Lake.
Yeah, Carrie Lake. Her case went to the Supreme Court, and basically what they said, they dismissed it. And what they said was, they said it in such a way that see, they've got lots of allegations but they don't have any evidence of election fraud. And so they said, you need to have evidence. You got these allegations and they might be true, but you need evidence. And so what's come out is that these Dominion voting machines, matter of fact, that 107 talks about it. He said that these Dominion voting machines were transmitting data to Serbia, okay? So what happened, and it's come out that Trump was waiting. He had issued an executive order for the Director of National Intelligence to notify him that there was election interference, right, by foreign countries. And so he had issued an executive order to seize property and all sorts of stuff. And it came out just after the election that those Dominion voting machines were transmitting data to a satellite that was owned by an Italian defense contractor and was leased to the Vatican. And I heard, again, this is a rumor, I heard that we went and seized a whole shitload, 250, there's two stories, either 250 or 650 airplane loads of gold from the Vatican.
650.
Sorry?
650.
Yeah, 650 is one of the stories I heard. But so, anyways, so what happened is we got all this stuff going on. It's come out also that these Dominion voting machines had approved software in them. There's a case with I think it's Kerry Lake again too. Okay, but it's come out that they had approved software, but that approved software had been replaced with unapproved software in every machine in the country. Well, I don't know how many of you have worked in government contracts and stuff like that. I have. And if you have a machine and the software in it is not approved, then nothing that happened with it is valid. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to come out that there was no election in 2020 or 2022. And all the people that were in office before those elections are still in office, because anybody that was put into office after that, they weren't voted. There was no election because the machines didn't have valid software. And so this is what's coming out. I think this is going to come out here before the fall. It might come out in the summer. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah,
But-
but also, all of the Biden administration is cabinet. They didn't do oath of offices. They never got sworn.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, that's all valid.
There was just a news blurb that came out. The Arizona Senate audit confirms beyond the shadow of a doubt Trump is the legitimate president of the 2020 presidential election, and Katie Hobbs inserted 74,243 mail-in ballots in the November 3rd, 2020 election that are tied to individuals returned and cast with, no verification.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising. So what I want to see and what I'm expecting to see is states they'll start to decertify the election. Okay? Remember, they all had to certify the election. Well, they'll start to decertify it. So there'll be state legislatures that'll not decertify the election. So we'll see. That's all I can say. It's all going to start coming out. It is coming out right now. Yes.
I think they're going to have to, since you just mentioned that, because prior to that, all the states and corporations, they're making a change. They're going into a change now. They have to go back to the de jure. So they have to get rid of all that in order to set up, because Trump has told us numerous times, I'm giving the power back into the hands of the people.
I
Not
agree.
the corporations. He's taking it out. So we have to make that transition. Oh, I just had an epiphany.
I haven't heard that. And so that's interesting thought, but I haven't heard that. At any rate, let's keep moving. All hospitals and healthcare are actually death care. All financial institutions, banks, real estates, that's all federal. All labor organizations are federal. All law enforcement agencies are federal. It's all District of Columbia. You got to understand that. They're bringing the District of Columbia outside 10 Mile Square. All government agencies, courts, cities, counties, municipal corporations, that's all federal because they're all corporate. They fall under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Commerce Clause. All taxes are federal. They pay for federal programs. The officers of their so-called court are U.S. citizens. They're demanding Federal Reserve notes. All their LEOs, code enforcers, are U.S. citizens. Municipal corporations are territorial. They're not territorial. They're federal. I need to change that. They're not territorial. I used to think they're making merchandise of you, which is the death penalty at common law. They're demanding Federal Reserve notes. This is the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. As used in this act, the term United States means government of the United States, means currency. The term currency of the government of the United States means currency, which is legal tender in the government of the United States, and includes United States notes and Federal Reserve notes. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so, under international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own name. A mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and the other by mere private persons. I'm just going to check my YouTube right now and see if there's any comments. Yeah, see the International Treaty on Civil and Political Rights. All children must be registered at birth. Yeah, but that's international. Yeah. Petition for writ of mandamus. Okay, so nothing there to be concerned about. So there's people here finally. It's been here. Good. So we'll keep moving. A mixed war is made by one side by a public authority and the other by mere private persons. So they're making war on you. You got to understand that. The war on terror is the war on you. And the Republican is the only form of government, the Republican government. The Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. A republic, if you can keep it.
Hey, back to the other screen, it just say the Republic, it says Republican, two different things.
It says in Article 4 that we're entitled to a Republican form of government.
I thought it was Republic.
No, it says a Republican form of government.
Okay.
Article 4.
Excuse me, it's capitalized in the Constitution and the case matters, in my view.
Okay, so capitis diminutio means the diminishing of status through the use of capitalization, Roman law, and that's what they do. Okay, that's that minor estate is all block capital letters. It's always all block capital letters. So you know it's that minor estate, which means they're violating your rights under the color of law. That's a felony. They're enslaving you. There's a whole bunch of things. Capitis diminutio maxima means the maximum loss status through the use of capitalization. The highest, it's all block capital letters. The highest and most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed to one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with all rights of citizenship and family rights. So you're a piece of property. You're a slave. You're owned. This is the Trading with the Enemy Act. The president, if he shall find it compatible with the safety of the United States and with the successful prosecution of the war, during the time of war, the president may, through any agency that he may designate under such rules and regulations as he may prescribe by means of instructions, licenses, or otherwise, regulate, direct, compel, nullify, void, prevent, or prohibit, or exercise any right, power, or privilege with respect to any property by any person subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and upon the terms directed by the president, any such agency or person, and such designated agency or person may perform any and all acts incident to the accomplishment or furtherance of these purposes. And that's Title 50 of United States Code, Appendix 5, Trading with the Enemy Act. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. and that's the 14th Amendment. It's all commercial warfare. This is an act to terminate certain authorities with respect to national emergencies in effect and to provide for early orderly implementation and termination of future national emergencies. That's September 14th, 1976 at 12 Stat 1255. And it says this act may be cited as the National Emergencies Act. And the provisions of this act shall not apply to the following provisions of the law, the powers and authorities conferred therein, and actions taken under. And it doesn't apply to the Trading with the Enemy Act. So they're basically continue with the Trading with the Enemy Act. Check out my other videos: Bankster Thieves playlist, Roman Cult playlist, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 8, Do It Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft, which is the killing fields, Martial Laws Here, Do It Yourself, No Income Tax, Free Mail 1 and 2, Do It Yourself, Free Mail 1 and 2, Do It Yourself, Kangaroo Courts 1 through 30, Canada Border Pigs playlist, Bar Members and Their Satanic Connections playlist, the Prize Act, Browns versus United States, 12 U.S.C. 119, 1814. The Prize Act confers the power on the President to issue instructions to private armed vessels for the regulation of their conduct. The Act of 6 July 1812 authorizes the President to make regulations for the support. By the Constitution, the Executive is charged with the faithful execution of the laws, and the language of the Act declaring war authorizes him to carry it into effect. So, again, that's in the U.S. Supreme Court. By the Constitution, the Executive is charged with the faithful execution of the laws, and the language of the Act declaring war authorizes him to carry it into effect. So you could use that for the Trading with the Enemy Act. And this is Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture Program, where they steal your property. We can't even begin to count the number of times judges, lawyers, and statesmen have said there isn't any common law anymore. It's been replaced by statutes. They'd be more truthful if they said there isn't any common law anymore. It's been replaced by martial law. And that's Judge A.H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court in his book, The Non-Ratification of the 14th Amendment, related to the case Diet versus Turner, 1968. In the meantime, civil law is a form of law imposed in the Roman Empire, which was largely, if not wholly, governed by martial law rule. Equity has always been understood to follow the law. To have superior equity is to turn things on their head. This is exactly what happened when martial law is imposed. If equity is the law, then it follows its own course rather than following the common law, thereby destroying the common law and leaving what's called equity in its place. So if you think what he's saying is that when you have martial law, normally equity is supposed to follow common law. But when you have martial law, there is no common law, and equity can do anything it wants. And they'll even tell you that. These judges will tell you, I can do anything I want here.
Right,
So they're telling you.
They see what equal is their opinion.
Sorry?
They think, if there's equity, the judge can say, well, this is what's fair. You get this, and this is what we get. But it's equity.
Whatever. The Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. The war on terror is a war on you. A republic, if you can keep it. It's well-established principle of law that all federal regulation applies only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. All seizures are under prize law. If you're an alien enemy, they're making war on you. Anytime they're talking to you, it's warfare. You got to understand that. There is a canon of legislative construction that teaches Congress that unless a contrary intent appears, legislation is meant only to apply within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. And so, again, under the Commerce Clause, the boundaries expand as necessary. If a citizen acquires the same legal status, artificial character as those protected by the amendment through the operation of some statutory law of Congress, then said citizen may be brought within the venue of the amendment as a statutory juristic person. By this means, citizens' birthrights become of no effect and their rights are reduced to inferior character of statutory civil rights, mere legislative privileges. And that's, again, Judge H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court in his book, Non-Ratification of the 14th Amendment. in the case Diet versus Turner. So they're talking about how you get mixed up with these statutes, then you're turning yourself into a slave. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. On Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments. This is the front page of my channel. The subscribe button's already clicked. The bell is not clicked. The arrow's pointing at the bell, so you got to click the bell if you want to get notified of uploads. So there's two classes of citizens. There's state citizens and federal citizens. You can be a state citizen without being a U.S. citizen. Watch the video. Do you know who you are? A U.S. citizen is not entitled to an Article 3 court, but instead gets an Article 1 court with a plenary military dictatorship. Jurisdiction under Article 1 and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is defined and reinstated in National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, which is U.S. Supreme Court 1948, which further states that citizens of the District of Columbia are not embraced by the judicial power under Article 3 of the Constitution of the United States. The same statement is held in Hepburn versus Dundas versus Elise, 1804. The Supreme Court, through Chief Justice Marshall, held that a citizen of the District of Columbia is not a citizen of a state. By metaphysical refinement, in examining a form of our government, it might be correctly said that there is no such thing as a citizen of the United States. A citizen of any one of the states of the Union is held to be and called a citizen of the United States, although technically and abstractly there is no such thing. It's a fiction. This is National Mutual Insurance Company versus Tidewater Transfer Company, 1948, U.S. Supreme Court. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the states are not included in the catalog of controversies over which the Congress could give jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power nationally covers those citizens, even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. So again, this is Article 3. They're talking about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. So they're not entitled to an Article 3 court. The term individual means a citizen of the United States or an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. The term federal personnel means officers and employees of the government of the United States, members of the uniformed services, including members of the reserve and components, individuals entitled to receive immediate or deferred retirement benefits under any retirement program of the government of the United States, including survivor benefits. So anybody with a Social Security number, and it's all in the evidence you introduce. So if you introduce that evidence, then you're federal personnel by definition. The term citizen of the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. U.S. citizens, a government employee, or a estate trust, which is a minor estate. The Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. A republic, if you can keep it. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. That's Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1. So it's talking about the two classes of citizens there. Privileged immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is the residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. Privileges and immunities clause of the 14th Amendment protect only those rights peculiar to being a citizen of the federal government. It does not protect those rights which relate to state citizenship. State citizens are the only ones living under free government whose rights are incapable of impairment by legislation or judicial decision. State citizenship is a vested substantial property right, and the state has no power to divest or impair these rights. This is a really good one here. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation, but those over which it does not extend are upon the soundest principles exempt from taxation. This proposition may almost be pronounced self-evident. The sovereignty of the state extends to everything which exists by its authority or is introduced by its permission. But does it extend to those means which are employed by Congress to carry into execution powers conferred on that body by the people of the United States? We think it demonstrable that it does not. That's why they have to get you into the Commerce Clause. They got to get you into a contract. They know they don't have a shred of authority over we the people. And that's why using we the people in your court cases and a man and those kinds of things, and the fact that, like, using your ancestors, my fourth great uncle was Will Livingston, who ratified the Constitution for New Jersey. That's a major problem for him. Those powers are not given by the people of a single state. They are given by the people of the United States to a government whose laws made in pursuance of the Constitution are declared to be supreme. Consequently, the people of a single state cannot confer a sovereignty which will extend over them. That is so powerful. The power which is derived, this is a maximum law. The power which is derived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. That's a maximum law. The rights of sovereignty extend to all persons and things not privileged that are within the territory, not privileged. You gotta stay out of their privileged, or you gotta make sure that that stuff doesn't get introduced. If it doesn't get introduced into the case, then it's not evidence. And you have to be the one to introduce it. If they introduce it, it's inadmissible. They extend to all strangers resident therein, not only to those who are naturalized, and to those who are domiciled therein, having taken up their abode with the intention of permanent residence, but also to those whose residence is transitory. All strangers are under the protection of the sovereign while they're within his territory, and owe a temporary allegiance in return to for that protection. That's Carlisle versus United States, U.S. Supreme Court, 1873. Notice they're using common law terms out of the Bible. Okay, stranger is out of the Bible. That's out of the Bible is where they talk about that. There's strangers and those born in the land, and so they're using terms out of the Bible. Statutes have been passed extending courts of admiralty and vice admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof the power of the use and exercise of the law martial. That's why you cannot mix it. You cannot mix your law. You know, Vince would go in there and he'd make a good law argument, and then he'd bring out the birth certificate saying, I got this birth certificate authenticated. And the judge would look at him and say, you're crazy. You need your head examined. Under Title I, Section 1, incompos mentis is insane. And he's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And so the judge told him that he had a problem there. That judge was probably a good judge. A lot of judges will sit there and play stupid and not tell you anything about it and then rule against you and let you figure out what happened. The Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. A republic, if you can keep it. Copies of these documents can be found on my website and linked under my recent YouTube videos. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information, shares a DVD with over 100 searchable law dictionaries and other books and forums, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the fake money the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, the forced loans, the securities, the cash app gifts, checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for particulars. Remember, I said you got to stay out of their privileges, and discharging debt with limited liability is a privilege. And that's why I have the statement in here. I prefer gold or silver coin. but I can accept the fake money, and I call it fake money, military scripts. You see what I'm saying? I'm telling them I don't want your privilege, but I'll take it if I have to.
As a last resort.
As a last resort, exactly.
Now, Glenn, it's 10 till.
I know. I'm moving as quick as I can. Quit interrupting me, and I'll keep going. Whereas taxation by the Parliament of Great Britain for the purpose of raising revenue in His Majesty's colonies, provinces, plantations in North America has been found by experience to occasion great uneasiness and disorders from and after the no shit, Batman. That from and after the passing of this act, the King and Parliament of Great Britain will not impose any duty, tax, or assessment, whatever, payable on any of the colonies, provinces, or plantations in North America or West Indies, except only such duties as may be expedient to impose for the regulation of commerce. And that's George III, Chapter 12, 1778, 2 years after the Declaration of Independence. It's just like closing the barn door after the horses get out. Anyways, judge works for the state. What we're going to have to do is we'll just have to pause it right here. And this will be it. I'm going to end the live stream. We're going to end it right now because it's 10-2 and we got to get out of here. It's actually, I don't have 10-2. I've got 25-2. I don't know where you're getting your information from.
I got 251.
I got 236.
Uh-oh.
That's on my computer.
Time zone.
What do you have?
I got 251 too. Okay, I got 251. This computer's off. Okay, no problem. Yeah, we'll just end it right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. We got to end it. We got to leave this place. So, yeah, maybe we'll do part 2 next time. Okay.